Hello and welcome back to my creative endeavors. I've made some realistic Pokemon using Photoshop in the past, but this time I decided to make something a little bit different. There's this concept online called Fakemon, where people create new Pokemon from their imagination, and being a fan of that, I tried to make one of my own. This is not an entirely new concept, but it's what my imagination cooked up and I rolled with it. Here's how I made this rock fire type Bulbasaur. So, to start things off easily, I grabbed the Pokédex image of Bulbasaur and used it to sketch my general idea and the modifications I would want in this Pokemon. I was aiming for a fire type, so following Pokemon logic it would need to be rough, maybe a bit angry, and to have some kind of fire element to his body. In my mind I was picturing a grey Bulbasaur with maybe some pieces of black rock like charcoal to replace his dark green blobs, and to give more shape and details to his body. For the green onion looking bulb on his back, I was aiming for a rocky version of that, maybe a small volcano thing that he carries around or something. And for the environment, I wanted a volcano rock landscape with some lava rivers and maybe a volcano far in the back. I ended up changing that, but it is what it is. No plan survives the first encounter with the task. After I had my draft, I made some grey shapes for the subject's body and used several exposure adjustment layers for some ambient lighting and to add some shape to this whole thing. I made the legs separate layers because this way it's easier to convey depth and separation between body parts. I gave him a human tongue because I knew it would be dark and nobody would notice. Tried out my idea of using rocks for body details and kept on my journey to give some shape to these grey blobs that I had on my screen. The rocks followed the same logic that I used on my Onyx and Rhyhorn. I made a shape, filled it with the rock texture and moved it around until I found some sort of crack or bump that helped me to give shape to the rock I was trying to create. I did that a couple more times until I had them all, and I used some random mossy texture so his skin wasn't so bland and empty. The back hump was the exact same process. Shape, cut the rock into the shape, and then repeat. And speaking of repetition, for his body I did the exact same thing I did for the head. Some mossy grunge and some rocks cut into the shapes I needed to fit the Pokemon and my needs. This is also why I leave the draft as a layer on top of everything. This way I can always come back to it and make some shapes and check what I have left to do. The eyes were fairly simple. I kept the Bulbasaur identity by using some frog eyes that I warped into place, and for the nails and teeth I used my trusted technique of just slapping some bone cracks into place. It works and fits well with these rough rocky concepts, so I'll guess I keep doing it. After all this, the face was still lacking some features, so I decided to make his eyebrows out of rock as well. And to help sell his back as a volcano, I added some cracks that showed the fiery interior of this cuddly little beast. Continuing down the experimentation lane, I tried to create Bulbasaur's iconic vines but with lava. This was something I was trying just to see if I could do something that was not impossible to look at, and after some horrible phases I managed to create something that I was pleased with fucking English. I knew I still had a lot to do, so I left the hard decisions to the end. I think it's always important to keep pushing, because if I lose too much time overlooking some details, I might get discouraged and abandon the project altogether, and I hate that feeling. Okay, for the background, some lava to help make the river or lake or whatever you call this. I keep using water references, but this is clearly not water. Anyway, some dark rocks for the ground, and a lot of shadows to tie everything together. This is another important part, a turning point if we can call it that. I wanted an outside apocalyptic vibe, but I was not liking the volcano. I was finding it a bit distracting, so I pulled a lava tube, which is a real geological formation created by lava flows, and used it to form some sort of cave. Following that decision, I spent a couple hours doing everything I could to make the cave more dynamic, using some lava veins and extending the lava flow into the back. But still, I was not liking the composition, so I resorted to the number one rule in these Photoshop endeavors. If it doesn't fit or it doesn't look good, hide it behind something. So I grabbed some lava eruptions and bam, instantly improved. But like I said, the subject was far from finished. I gave him some rocky ear tips, tried to improve the lava vine, and used some real frog skin to add some more grunge and details to his face. It helps with the overall shape and brings every piece closer to reality. And I also used some old human skin for some wrinkles around the lips. After all that, I did something that is also very important because it helps our eyes and our brains really feel like the subject is really there in their environment, which is to add some glows that would be naturally created by all this lava and fire. And finally, the last but not least, I compressed everything into a single layer and brought it into camera raw. This is very important because at this point the image had a lot of different tones of red, orange, yellow that didn't match up, and I had to tweak the colors a bit to help us see all this lava as one single element, or one element from the same place. It's called color balancing stuff. Alright, here you can see the difference. And there we have it, a rock fire type Bulbasaur made using Photoshop and my imagination. I'm very happy with the results. I tried to streamline some parts of the process and this ended up being faster than I thought initially. I hope you liked this one. Tell me in the comments below what you thought of it and have a great day. I'll see you in the next video.